welcome to the Wealthy Lala Show with myself, Laurie Laursen. Today is episode 181. How are you guys doing today? How was your weekend? Did you guys do anything fun? We had a pretty cool weekend. Got a chance to spend one evening with one of our son that has the two little boys and his wife and his mother-in-law. Got to have a nice hamburger, a barbecue. That was awesome. Oh, the weather was so beautiful here. There's just nothing quite like having that spring sunshine, snow melting, being able to go outside without jackets and stuff like that. Oh my God, our grandson was just loving it. He was just, as soon as he could escape the house, he would. If he could live outside, he'd be living outside. I think my daughter-in-law is finding that a bit of a challenge because for her, she can't be outside as often as he'd certainly like to be. But they're finding their way. And then on yesterday, Sunday, we were able to have our daughter, who's expecting soon. She's like 36 and a half weeks. And her hubby and her came over for supper, and so we got to have a really nice visit, chat about things. So yeah, no, it was a little drive to Edmonton. Oh, we visited with my husband's mother-in-law. Do you know, actually, I got to tell you guys, my mother-in-law, she's so adorable. She's going to be 87 in June. And I think I was figuring it out this November, like this fall, so say like October, November, because no one really knows for sure when it actually happened, but she had like what's called a mini TIA. So it's like a mini stroke. And what it did was it just created her beginning to lose her memory. And over time, it's just continued to get worse. But this woman, I tell you, at 87, she could freaking run circles around me. Not saying that that's real hard, but she's 87, people. She's 87. When we went to go visit her yesterday, there was what are those things called again? They were a little bit on lockdown. There was a flu. A bunch of people had the flu in there. So what they do then, or what this particular place, this lodge where she lives, is doing, was everyone had to stay in their room during the day, and only those that weren't sick could come out and eat at meal times, but otherwise they had to stay in their room. Well, my mother-in-law has a frick ton of energy, and at 87, to lock her in her room, she needs to be highly engaged. It was so funny because we walked into the lodge and 3 of the staff right away came up to us and said, "Oh, good you guys are here. This will be so good for Ruth that you're going to come and visit her." And, yeah, so it was so funny. Oh gosh. And there was just some really funny, cute things. My mother-in-law loves to, like, she's always been a note writer. So she writes notes. She kept lists of what medications she had taken. She kept lists of, she was just super organized that way. And as she started to, discover, well, I don't know if she really acknowledged that she's got, that she's forgetful. I mean, she does acknowledge it, but she just says, oh, she's just got too much on her mind. It's hard to remember everything, and which is totally fine. But what she started to do even more as the dementia, forgetting increased, was she writes notes. So she writes notes everywhere, and she would have notes on her wall, stuck on her wall. So if she has like 3 or 4 notebooks, and she writes down, like, when she goes for breakfast, when she comes back for breakfast, if someone called, what her box number is. Oh gosh, trying to think of some of the other things. If her bike was sold, or who's got her medication, who's going to bring her medication. And, she writes everything down, but she writes it over and over and over again. And she feels like, in her way, this is like a sense of control. And she started writing notes on things that are just random things. And oh my gosh, I just had such a huge chuckle. When we left there, I said to my hubby, I have to honestly give our kids permission that in the event that I choose to or end up with dementia when I get older, um, and I do things that are really kind of a little bit off the wall, things we would not normally choose if we did not have dementia. That's really what it is. That my kids have permission to laugh at me. We have gotten used to the fact that my mother-in-law is this way. And so, we roll with it. She repeats things over and over and over again, the same questions, and stuff like that. One thing I personally was really grateful for was the fact that my father-in-law had dementia for a really long time, and I saw how my mother-in-law was with him. And she was so beautiful with him that watching her with him allowed such a window of possibility for me to choose with her. And there has been times when I've gone there and I've been frustrated, and I've never taken it out on her, and I have felt frustrated and felt like avoiding going there or whatever. And I found that actually my frustration, well, I mean, it always is, but it was about me. And yeah, I just find that really interesting. So anyways, if you have, a parent or a grandparent or someone in your life, a sibling who's, going through something like this, if there's any way you can give yourself self-love and self-understanding, self-compassion to let yourself, grieve what you've lost. Because she was funny. She was fun. I miss that my 3 kids in-laws, and even my kids have said the same thing, that they all got to miss kind of the real her. Not saying this isn't the real her. This is part of her, life too. But it is different than how we knew her before. And when she was able to engage with us, it's got to a point now where, like, I mean, literally she had stickers and stuff all over her walls pretty much the entire time she's lived there, which is, I think, going on about 5 years. And my hubby says to her yesterday, so I see all your pictures and your papers are all down. And she's like, oh, what's that? Well, yeah, all those pictures and papers and everything you had on the wall. Oh, I don't remember that. Like, she doesn't remember things much at all. And even our oldest son, who is the oldest grandson, he's 31. When we were talking about our kids, she asked us, and who's your oldest son again? So you can tell that her, her memory is starting to get more and more and more and more recent. That that she's not able to remember our oldest son, Brett, or his name anyways. And because he was the first grandson. And for those of you that have grandkids, there's something quite like the first one. It's your first, They're not any more special than the other ones, other than they had the royal position of being first. And that in itself, it changes your life. And so they're known for that, and they happen to be the one that represent that. And so Brett was that in their world too. And so anyways, that was just on a side note. So one of the things that I actually wanted to share today here was I'm reading this book. I think I talked about it the other day, was Outrageous Openness, by Letting the Divine Take the Lead. It's by Tosha Silver. And I'm just loving it. It's just such a sweet book. It's such an easy read. It's just chapters of little stories. And they're all just sort of introspective stories. Just thinking this would actually be a fun book for me to write if I was to write a book. It's like something similar of this nature. Anyway, so I wanted to share with this because, you guys, as I'm going through my journey and I keep myself in a place of, well, not even keep myself, but I just have this knowing that there's something else possible with dis-ease and illness and, cures and, having recoveries and stuff like that on things that they say we shouldn't, that are incurable. And when I read something like I'm going to just read to you guys here soon, this just gives me so much more hope and possibility. And it reminds me that I know what I know, even though I don't have any proof in my world yet of something like this. It keeps me in the hope and the possibility of it. I just find it so inspiring. So anyways, Tosha is writing this in her book here, and she says, I once heard this story about a friend's sister. A 40-ish woman named Paula lived in Baltimore as a paralegal, busy with relationships, work, family, typical stuff. She was not in the least bit spiritually inclined. Then came the shocker. Though she had never had more than a cold, Paula was suddenly diagnosed with a rapidly advancing, rare form of lymphoma and given 3 months to live. Her world imploded. Practical by nature, she immediately threw her energy into organizing her affairs, handling her imminent departure like one of the more efficient to-do lists that she had spent her life making. To her amazement, she was not afraid. Paula paid off her debts, released everything unnecessary, and prepared to die. This world became, I don't know what this word is, you guys, DIAPHANOUS, dream. So whatever kind of dream that is. I will have to look it up because it does make me curious. And I have only read this story like 4 times to different people now, and I still haven't bothered to look it up. So to me, it's kind of just not really relevant to getting the point. So, which is likely why I haven't bothered. Anyways, so she ceased to have. So this is the part that really, really impacted me. She ceased having useless conversations. She started telling everyone the truth. She stopped doing anything she didn't want, following her inner clock completely. As she realized this world would go on quite well without her, a peaceful detachment embraced her like a warm bath. Then a new twist. In the 3rd month, the cancer spontaneously left. To the doctor's confusion, all symptoms vanished as fast as they had come. But Paula's calm equanimity remained. And then, so they just talked about a couple of other things here. And it says, Tosha goes on to say that the same divinity that Paula had once dismissed now flowed unimpeded through her being. Paula said, maybe when you no longer need anything, you can have everything. When you stop trying to make things happen, anything can. All I know is the me that used to be is gone. I'm out of the way. And as a person, is interesting because recently I would have called it before a people pleaser, and I was listening to an audiobook by Mel Robbins the other day, and she said that often when you feel unsafe, becoming a chameleon in all different environments is actually becomes a requirement for what you believe is for your safety. So what I thought was a people pleaser, which not saying that I can't choose that either at times, and don't, or do, but it was more of a, I would change myself to the environment to create safety, as much safety as possible for me. And when I listen to this or read this, and it says, she ceased having useless conversations. She started telling everyone the truth. She stopped doing anything she didn't want, following her inner clock completely. As she realized the world would go on quite well without her, a peaceful detachment embraced her like a warm bath. And then a new twist. The cancer spontaneously left. Like, what freedom is on the other side of us choosing ourselves and not choosing useless conversations. Telling everyone the truth. And I'm thinking even telling ourselves the truth, like being so incredibly truthful with ourselves. What's true for us, what's not true for us, which makes us happy, what doesn't, what's in alignment with our lives and not, and allowing ourselves to choose that. Like if you were told you only had 3 months to live, what would you choose and be so unapologetically for? Like unapologetically choose that when you think you have 5, 10, 20, 50 years still left, you won't, because of, worrying about what other people think, guilt, discomfort, whatever. Anyways, so I just thought that was so beautiful to know that those kind of, these kind of things are possible, and it inspires me, each day, minute by minute, to choose even more of myself and what's true for me. And a lot of times, it can be uncomfortable, and I'm still going to keep choosing little by little. Well, you guys have an amazing rest of your day. Big hugs. Thanks so much again for listening. And thanks for being a part of me breaking over 1,000 listens. Like, how does it get any better? And if you want to reach me for anything, thewealthylala@gmail.com.